Hi everyone, Crista Cowan here with another episode of the Barefoot Genealogist. Today I am pre-recording the show because I am attending the Federation of Genealogical Societies annual conference in Fort Wayne, Indiana. For those of you who aren't familiar with Fort Wayne, it is home to the Allen County Public Library, which is the second largest genealogical library in the United States. And I'm really excited to have some time to spend there, but mostly I'll be in the exhibit hall. So if you live anywhere near Fort Wayne, Indiana, the exhibit hall is actually free. Come and say hello to me, introduce yourself. I'd love to meet you and learn some more about Ancestry.com and Fold3 and newspapers.com and some of our other genealogical services. If you want to attend the conference, go to some of those classes. There is a charge for that, but the conference started about 2 hours ago, and so if you live anywhere near here, please feel free to come on down. Today we're going to be talking about the War of 1812. If you watched Who Do You Think You Are this week, you know that Chris O'Donnell discovered that he had an ancestor that participated in the War of 1812, specifically at Fort McHenry in Baltimore, and that's exciting. And so we've had a lot of questions about the War of 1812 and the kind of records that are available and how we discover more about ancestors who may have fought in that war. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Lots to cover, and so let's go ahead and dive into that. Let's talk first about how to discover who in your ancestry could have participated in the War of 1812. The easiest way, of course, is if you use Family Tree Maker, you can use the filter feature to create a list of possible participants. So I'm going to go ahead and just put here on the screen the filter that I used so that you can see how that works. Basically what I did was I filtered in anyone who was born before 1796. That means they would have been 18 by the time that War of 1812 ended. And then I filtered out anyone who was born before 1762. That's just kind of an arbitrary age, but it makes sure to catch everybody who would have been between the ages of about 18 and 50 during the War of 1812. I also filtered out, of course, anyone who died before 1812 and then filtered out females so that I have this list of males that are available. I do have a whole class on filters, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but let me just quickly show you how I did that. So remember, I'm going to filter in anyone where the birth is before 1796, and that's going to create a list of people in my database who meet that criteria. There's going to be several thousand of them, I believe. As soon as the filter process takes a little while because my database is kind of big. So yeah, I've got 3,800 people that fit that criteria. Then I'm going to filter out anyone, remember again, where the birth is 1762. So that catches everybody who was 50 years, 18 to 50 years old in 1812. Well, between 1812 and 1815 when the war ended. Then I'm going to also filter out anybody who died before 1812, so that if they passed away before the war even started, I know that they're not going to be part of this list. And that's going to drop my numbers a little bit more, and then I'm going to filter out anybody who is female to catch the males. Now, for me, that's still a fairly big list. I've got 825 people who meet that criteria. I could further filter it looking specifically for people who are living in the United States, obviously, but most of these people are, and so for my purposes, we'll just look at this list. So this then gives me a list of people who were eligible to have served during the War of 1812. Now, right off the bat, I look here. Here is my fifth great-grandfather, Peter Ambrose, and so I maybe want to look at him and see what he might have done. Not only is he the appropriate age, born in 1791, which means he would have been 21 years old when the war began, but he's living in Maryland, which was a prime target for the British during that particular war. And so this is a good place for me to start with this fifth great-grandfather of mine. So that's kind of how you decide who in your ancestry may have been eligible or have participated in the War of 1812, so that you know what you're looking for. If you want to take a screenshot of this or come back and hit pause so that you can try it yourself. Here are the filters that I used again in Family Tree Maker to create a list of possible participants in the War of 1812. Now let's talk about the meat of the matter today, which is what records exist and where can you find them. There are quite a few records available for the War of 1812, and so we're just going to walk through some of the most popular and a couple of tips for searching them. First, let's talk about muster rolls. Muster rolls are simply lists of officers and enlisted troops by unit, and sometimes it includes details about when they enlisted, their rank, their age, assignments they may have been given, and then absences. So, for example, if a roll was taken of a particular unit at a certain time and your ancestor was away at that time, maybe away on a leave of absence or away on an assignment, it might include a notation of that. Following your ancestor through muster rolls is a good way to keep track of when they enlisted and when they may have mustered out, so when they were no longer in service. That gives you a time frame for their service. It also leads to other clues so that you can start looking for other types of records that may have been created. Now, we do have some muster rolls online. We actually have a lot of muster rolls online, but we have some for the War of 1812. And the easiest way to find those is to search for muster in the card catalog. So if I come here to Ancestry.com, I'm just going to, this is the card catalog if you've never seen it before. I sometimes forget we have new people all the time. You're going to find it by hovering over search, and card catalog is going to be the bottom option there. When you click on that, it's going to take you to this page that shows you all of the 31,393 databases on Ancestry.com. I'm just here in the title field going to type the word muster and click search, and that's going to show me all of the muster rolls available, in this case 23 databases of them on Ancestry.com. Now what you'll notice here is that some of these are by branch of the military. So for example, here are the Marine Corps muster rolls. They start in 1798 and go through 1958. So the War of 1812 will be included in that time period. So that's what you're looking for, is anything that has muster rolls that might contain information about your ancestors during the War of 1812. Here is muster rolls and records of service for Maryland troops. It covers 1775, so it starts with the American Revolution and goes through 1783, so that's the Revolutionary War. Here are muster rolls of the soldiers of the War of 1812 from North Carolina militia. So that's kind of the things that you're looking for, is look at the date coverage and the location or the branch of the military to determine if that's a set of muster rolls that you're going to want to search for your ancestor. Again, some of the War of 1812 muster rolls are online, but the rest of them are going to be available at the National Archives. They've microfilmed quite a few of those, and if you have a branch of the National Archives near you, you might be able to get access to those. Now, we're going to kind of advance here in level of importance or significance of these particular records. The next type of record that exists for War of 1812 veterans are what we call compiled service records. Basically what these are is they're a folder of abstracts from the muster rolls. So someone has gone through and extracted information from the muster rolls about your ancestor. There are pay vouchers, information about the money that your ancestor received for their service. Then there might be information about disciplinary actions or hospitalizations or wounds, or if they died in service. Certainly there will be information about that in the compiled service records. Now these compiled service records are folders full of information. And as such, they're all different sizes of paper, and it's just a complicated thing to digitize. So what we've got available on Ancestry.com are indexes to those compiled service record files. So the easiest way to find those, again, is going to be in the card catalog. And this time I'm going to have you do a search for 1812 and then filter to military. So let me reset my filters here on the card catalog. We're back up to those 31,000 databases. Here in the title field, I'm just going to type the number 1812 as a year. Click search. That's going to show me, when the internet catches up with me, probably a couple dozen maybe databases Wow, looks like the internet might be a little slow here today in the hotel. And then as soon as I get that list, what I'm going to do then is click on this filter right here that says military. What that allows me to do is filter to just the military databases that contain the word or the number 1812 in the title. So it looks like there are 52 of those databases that fit that criteria. And you'll see here we have U.S. War of 1812 Service Records database. So if I've already got it open here. I knew the internet might give me some fits. So here is that database for the War of 1812 service records. Again, remember this is just an index to those particular records. So I can search by name, I can search by company. So that might be kind of interesting if you want to see who else served with your ancestor, because a lot of times the units that they served with included siblings, uncles, nephews, cousins, in-laws. So that's always kind of an interesting way to search, even without a name, to search by company. You can also search by rank information. Now, one of the things that I always suggest is that you scroll down and read the database description whenever you're looking at a new database. What this is going to tell you is that there were nearly 600,000 men that served in the War of 1812. And this has the names of almost all of them and gives information about where to find that compiled military service record. It's also, if you scroll down a little bit more, going to give you some information specifically about what you're going to find in that file, any additional information. Now again, because this is an index, what that means is you then need to contact the National Archives in order to order a copy of that actual file. What they'll do is, with the information you provide from the index, go and pull the file, copy that for you, and send you a copy of that file. I always love when I get mail or email from the National Archives. It's always exciting because they have such excellent records available there. So again, those are the compiled military service records from the War of 1812. The index is available on Ancestry.com. Now, the next set of records we're going to talk about are bounty land warrant applications. Basically what these are is that as payment for services, veterans or their widows or heirs could apply for 160 acres of land due to their service. Now, up until 1842, the land that they could apply for was in Illinois, Arkansas, or Missouri. So if you have an ancestor who was in Pennsylvania or Maryland or New Jersey, and then all of a sudden in 1840, they show up in one of those three states, it's a pretty good clue that they applied for their 160 acres and then went to live there. So that's useful information to just see if you have an ancestor who showed up there, it's very likely they applied for a bounty land warrant. That application for that bounty land warrant very well could give additional information about their service, when and where they served, who they served under, in the time period. So that's useful. Also, just another little side note about these records is that up until 1852, that land was not transferable. And so if they applied for a bounty land warrant, they owned that land typically at least until 1852. So if you're looking for somebody, particularly in the 1850 census, check one of those three states. You might discover, if you haven't found them previously, that they went there if they served in the War of 1812. Again, in this case, the index is available online, and the originals of those applications are held at the National Archives, so you'll want to get your hands on those. Now, let me just give you here a little bonus tip before we talk about the last and most exciting type of 1812 record available. My bonus tip is this. Try Google. I think sometimes we forget that Google is such a great genealogical resource. Google the name of your ancestor's regiment to see if there are any histories or any other books available online that will help you understand the battles they may have fought in. It's really great to see, oh, well, they enlisted in September of 1813 and they served until January of 1814, and they were from this state and they served in this regiment. That's great information, but when you can find a history of the regiment and the battles they may have fought in, it gives some context around what they did. Again, if you remember the episode of Who Do You Think You Are this week, you'll know that that the information that he received about the particular battle, even just that one specific battle that his ancestor fought in, gave him a whole new perspective about what his ancestor may have gone through and the choices that he made. And for me anyway, I love that kind of insight. And so try Googling the name of your ancestor's regiment. In the case of my fifth great-grandfather here, Peter Ambrose, he actually served in the Maryland militia as part of what's called Steiner's Frederick Artillery. And so all I did was I came here to Google and I typed in Steiner's Frederick Artillery. That's a word that's sometimes hard for me to say. And you'll see I have a few search results. Specifically, there is a book that was published in 1814. No, that was published in 1913 called The British Invasion of Maryland. And so I can click on that here in Google Books, and it will take me to a list of other people, a listing of people who served in that particular regiment. I can then search this book for my specific ancestor, and it will show me that he did, in fact, there's Peter Ambrose, serve as a private in Captain Steiner's Frederick Artillery. So you never know what you're going to discover. I could then maybe do a further search about the Maryland militia. Maybe I want to actually read this book. There is a free ebook here available for the purposes of doing that. I could read this book and see if there is more information about the battles that they fought in. It looks like it may be mostly just a listing of the names of those who fought, but you never know. And that's exciting to be able to do that. So try Googling the name of your ancestor's regiment. Look for any information about the battles that they may have fought in, or other people who may have served in that regiment. Now, for the last couple of minutes here, I just want to talk about what I consider probably the richest resource in any military research, but especially for the War of 1812, and that is pension files. Pension files usually fall under two specific categories, and sometimes both, depending on the case of your family. First, a soldier would have filed some kind of a disability claim if they were injured or could no longer work, and they would then include information about their service and their eligibility for that pension. The second case is going to be where a widow or the executor of a will, when there are underage children, files claims on behalf of themselves or any of those underage children. And that's when you end up with so much rich information. For example, I was just looking at a pension file, 29-page pension file the other day. It included information about my ancestor's maiden name. It included information about when and where they were married, and they were married in a time when that marriage information wasn't consistently recorded in the county that they lived in. And so now here, not only does she fill out information about her wedding date and place, but there was an affidavit, a signed affidavit by a woman who had been present at the marriage, and so a witness to that information. It often includes birth dates and places of those underage children as well. So again, in this pension file that I was looking at, we've got the list of all the children who are underage at the time that the pension was filed, with their birth dates and places, and then a signed affidavit actually by the older sister who claims that she was present at the birth of each of her younger siblings, and so she knew that the birth dates and places of those children as listed, she knew them to be true. So really exciting information available in pension files. I think another piece of paper in that pension file that I was looking at included, it was from the leader of the unit, writing about the service of this particular man, writing about his valor and the mission that he had been on where he had been killed, and the type of man that he was. And it was just this beautifully written letter to include in the pension application about his service. So lots of really cool things can be found in pension files, and I would encourage you to dig those out where you can. Now, here is the deal with the pension files for the War of 1812. The index is available online. So if you come here, let's close some of these. That's the compiled service record index and the bounty land warrant index. So here is the War of 1812 pension application files index. Again, I just found that through the card catalog. by typing in 1812 and clicking on military to filter my list down to those particular set of records. Here it is, War of 1812 Pension Application Files Index. So I would come in here and look for my particular ancestor. Now this ancestor of mine did not file a pension, but there are others who have, and so you can pull up that index. Now, we are in the process of digitizing the original pension files. They're one of the most requested set of records at the National Archives. And so last year, for the 200th anniversary of the beginning of the War of 1812, there was a joint project announced by the Federation of Genealogical Societies and Fold 3 to digitize these particular records with donations from individuals. Ancestry.com has agreed to match dollar for dollar every donation made until these records are completely digitized. And because we are digitizing them with donation dollars, they are being made available for free. They're available on fold3.com. So you go to fold3.com, and if you haven't been there before, just sign up for a free account, and you should be able to then see the pension files that have been digitized so far. These records are being made available as they are being digitized, so there's no wait, you don't have to wait till they're finished. Let me show you where you can see those. Again, you just go to fold3.com, and you can search if you want to do a search for an ancestor that way, or you can click on Browse Records here, which is kind of like the card catalog on Ancestry.com, and you'll see a category here for the War of 1812, and then you just want to scroll down until you see War of 1812 pension files. You see the little free notation there. So I'm going to click on War of 1812 pension files, and then you'll see here that they're organized by state. Now, we are only about 10%, maybe 10%, that's what it says here, 10% complete with the digitization of these. They are, at the National Archives, they're arranged alphabetically. And so what you're going to see is you click on each one of these states. We're actually in the process of digitizing the letter D. So we finished the C's, we're doing the D's now. And so you can then browse, if your ancestors got a name that starts with A, B, C, or some of the D's, you can browse those alphabetically by last name to see if your ancestors are included. Now, if you want to participate or contribute to the digitization of these pension files, this is the website to go to. It's preservethepensions.org. Preservethepensions.org. What you're going to discover there is this website. There are 7.2 million pages of documents that need to be digitized. If you give a donation of $45, for example, Ancestry.com then will match that $45 contribution. And I think if I saw the math correctly here on the screen just a moment ago, there it is, that will digitize 200 pages of documents. We have so far raised 33% of the money needed to digitize these particular records, which means we've got quite a ways to go. As a matter of fact, it was just announced, I believe, yesterday morning that here at this specific genealogical conference, they are attempting to raise $20,000 just this weekend as part of this conference. Again, then 7.2 million images to be digitized. Ancestry.com will match any donation dollar for dollar, and then all of those records that are digitized, as they're digitized, are made available for free for anyone to access on fold3.com. And those pension files, really, really rich resource for family history research, for people who are born in the early 1800s, even some in the late 1700s, as their fathers and husbands served, and then those pensions were applied for either by the soldiers themselves or by the widows or orphaned children. So, lots of really excellent records available for the War of 1812. I'm excited to hear what you find in those records. Just a reminder again, this presentation today was pre-recorded because I am at the FGS conference, and so I will not be available on chat following the presentation. However, feel free to talk amongst yourselves. The video will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, I believe, later today. And then if you have any comments, leave them there on the YouTube channel. I will check those out this evening or in the coming days to see if there's anything that I can assist with or any additional questions that I can answer. Until next time, this is Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.